Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Aarna Sahu, host of Aarna's News, where on this podcast channel, I aim to eliminate the gender gap in the STEM fields by featuring inspiring female professionals and highlighting their stories and accomplishments to further encourage girls. On today's episode,
I remember a professor saying, like, I don't want any of your projects to have any purple or pink, or any scrolly font, and him looking dead center at me. And I was the only female in the class. He's like, if I see anything pink or purple, it's an immediate failure. And I challenged that. And I remember my first project in that class, it was a programming class. I did everything in pink and purple. And I submitted the project and I said, if you fail me because of the color of the font or the color of anything, I will immediately take this to the dean and I will fight this and I will win. And, he gave me a C-. I think just because he could. I didn't fight it because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is really, I'm going to win this. He's openly saying this. But at least I didn't fail.
hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Aarna Sahu, host of Aarna's News, where on this podcast channel, I aim to eliminate the gender gap in the STEM fields by featuring inspiring female professionals and highlighting their stories and accomplishments to further encourage girls. Today, I am pleased to announce our guest, Eleni Sommerschield. Eleni is a Chief Executive Officer of OnTrack Agent, a pioneering web-based coaching and e-learning platform designed specifically for real estate professionals. She assumed the CEO role in 2025, bringing extensive proptech leadership experience from her previous position as Chief Operating Officer at one of the real estate industry's top CRMs. Under her leadership, OnTrack Agent has gone a significant platform revamp focused on enhancing user experience while providing robust digital rights management protection for content creators. Sommerschild's vision positions the company as a MasterClass for real estate coaching, connecting agents with top trainers and coaches to address critical industry challenges, including low inventory markets, compliance requirements, and professional development needs. She's committed to building a secure, comprehensive educational ecosystem that empowers real estate professionals to elevate their skills and better serve their clients. So thank you so much, Eleni, for being here today. Before we dive into the questions, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you. I think you did a really good job of doing that. So like you said, I'm Eleni Sommerschield. I've been in the proptech space and technology space for over 25 years now, maybe closer to 30, trying not to age myself. But I'm very tech focused, but also very, focused on, just improving the quality of people's businesses through technology and being able to maybe not live a balanced life, a work-life balance, because I think that's really difficult to achieve, but more so achieving harmony in one's life. Making things where technology will be able to improve your business, but also help you in your personal life as well. So that's always been a goal of mine and a big passion of mine is combining the two.
I love that. So my first question for you is tell us a bit about your career path.
Yeah, so goodness, started off, I guess, early on in life when I chose my my field of studies in college. I started studying computer science probably my second year of college, and really was not sure if that was going to be for me. I grew up in a very traditional Greek household that my parents were pretty strict in what they thought their daughters should be doing in life. My dad was very adamant on, just graduating high school and then going off and getting married and really not working. Where my mom, on the other hand, was kind of more forward thinking, for her generation and wanted her daughters to really get an education that she didn't have an opportunity to get, and and pursue a career. And so I'm grateful that I had my mom's support in that. And I honestly remember thinking, my mom pushing me into studying computer science, and thinking to myself, this was late in the early 2000s, late 90s. And I was like, gosh, mom, I'm like, everyone, that's like a boy, job. That's what guys do. That's not what girls do. And she was like, no, you could do it. You love it. You've always been interested in computers and in technology. You should pursue it. And as I started taking classes in computer science, I did notice I was like one of the only female, or maybe one of two females in my class. And it was nerve wracking as a 19, 20-year-old female, being in a class of, sometimes 50, sometimes over 150 people in the class, and being the only female. It was very intimidating and very nerve wracking. At that age, you don't have much confidence in yourself. A lot of things are going on in life and whatnot. And I just remember being very, very concerned that I wouldn't be able to hang with the guys. And then, but I was able to. I mean, there were some difficulties that I faced. There was definitely some challenges from some of my professors. They were very much in the, I remember a professor saying, like, I don't want any of your projects to have any purple or pink, or any scrolly font, and him looking dead center at me. And I was the only female in the class. He's like, if I see anything pink or purple, it's an immediate failure. And I challenged that. And I remember my first project in that class, it was a programming class. I did everything in pink and purple. And I submitted the project, and I said, if you fail me because of the color of the font or the color of anything, I will immediately take this to the dean, and I will fight this. I will win. And, he gave me a C minus. I think just because he could. I didn't fight it, because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is in this. He's openly saying this. But at least I didn't fail. So, yeah. And then the professor didn't teach again after that semester, which was hilarious, in my opinion. But yeah, I've always been a little bit of a feisty person. Don't tell me I can't do something that I feel like I can do.
No, I love that. I mean, just initially you thought that computer science was, pretty boring, but then you got that push from your mom, and then you slowly started to love computer science. And though there were challenges, I'm happy that you did what you wanted to do later on, so that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was, I think anything that you put your mind out to do, you can achieve it. I don't know if it's just I'm stubborn and bullheaded enough to do it, but I feel like really there has to be some belief in yourself, even if it's just one iota of a belief in yourself that you can do it. You do have to, persevere and just kind of keep pushing through. But there's room for everyone at the table, and I try and do that. In every setting that I've been in, and every role that I've been in, I've tried to make room for another female, for another person to join in when they feel like, gosh, I don't know if anyone's going to give me the chance. Um, I really believe in making that space for people.
I love, yeah. And this is a great segue to my next question, which is, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours? And do you have any tips to succeed?
Yeah. Well, I would say you have to love what you do. Um, you have to love it. Life is short, but it's not sometimes, sometimes you're going to be in a career for 30 some odd years, maybe. And if you wake up every morning dreading, like, oh, I got to go to work. Gosh, you've chosen the wrong path. It shouldn't be that way. You should wake up with joy every morning, saying, like, I love what I'm doing, and I cannot wait to get to the office or to my work setting and my work environment to do what it is that I need to do. Um, I think that is a magical moment in life when that happens, when you have that joy in what you do. The other thing is to do it with a servant's heart. I mean, I think, especially in leadership positions, you really need to go at it with the mentality of that you're going to be serving people. And that is inclusive of your customers or your clients, but it's also inclusive of your team. So those that you're responsible for and what those that you're in the care of, you need to serve them. It shouldn't be like, oh, I'm the CEO, and so now everyone kind of caters to my needs and whatever it is that I want. No, that shouldn't be. That's not how you should think of it. It should be, how can I change what's happening? What can I do to be present for them, for my clients, for my customers?
I agree. Yeah, I think that it's really important to realize that if you're doing a job, it should probably be something that you enjoy because you're gonna hate what you're doing. But I think another
Yeah,
big component, as you said, is that who are you providing your services for? Because maybe sometimes it's hard to see like the enjoyment, but if you see like who you're impacting, then maybe that could be another form of enjoyment and another form of happiness in what you're doing. So, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the roles that I've been in. I see sometimes some other people in my life that, they have that dread of waking up in the morning and going to work. And, I don't know. I don't feel that. I love what I do and I'm always happy to do it and happy to help. And I think that's an important aspect of life. It's an important aspect of life is to have that joy.
absolutely. And my next question for you is what is a common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
Yeah. Um, Gosh, a couple, but one that first came to my mind was, and I heard this actually not too long ago from like people like Mark Zuckerberg had said, like leaders, people that are leading, like someone from your executive suite should know technology. If you're a tech company and you have an executive team and nobody on the executive team has any knowledge of technology, like, ugh, you're gonna have problems. Um, so coming from the technical background, I think that's always given me um, uh, an advantage because I can hang with the developers. I understand them. I know what they do. I understand, the I understand how programming works. I understand how backend and how servers and systems and all the processes and everything it takes. So I can guesstimate the time of something. That's been a really important factor in my career because I've seen so many people. I sit on some advisory boards and I see some people that have started tech companies and they're not tech founders and or they're not technical in nature as a founder, and they have stumbled throughout some of their early on days in the company because they didn't understand. So they gave someone an assignment, a project that needed to be done, and there was no understanding of like what's the timeline, what is all the things that can that need to be considered in order for for this project to be to come to completion. And that I've had that advantage where I've been able to guesstimate pretty accurately how long something will take. So one, my developers, respect that of me. But then I also respect that of them. I don't have some, crazy, like here's this project to rewrite or overhaul a whole entire, system, a whole entire platform and say, and I need this done in 3 weeks. Like that's not going to happen when it's something really complicated. So understanding that I think is really important. So yeah, I would say if you're doing anything in, starting any kind of company or have a company that is, software company or some technology company, having people on your leadership team um, that know technology is going to be key. That's going to be important.
I agree. And it just shows that, learning technology, like having technological skills is very important in any aspect. So I think a lot of people think that with the rise of AI, tech skills are going to be obsolete. I think that's a huge myth that people have, but in reality, no, because there's still so many ways that you need your tech skills, like as you said, with being a founder or starting your own company or being on like the board of a company. Like you still kind of need that knowledge regardless of wherever the direction goes.
Right. I mean, listen, I love artificial intelligence and, all of the things that OpenAI has done and other companies and, in that aspect. But one thing that I'm always like, I do give some pushback when someone says to me, oh, I don't need to have any technical skills. I'll just have ChatGPT write up this program or something else, some other AI program, just write up a platform for me. And I'm like, okay, and how are you going to connect that to a database? And what about the security protocols? What are you going to do about that? There's other factors than just saying like, oh, I'm going to have some kind of system do something for me where it'll be like, I don't know, something as simple as, a clock in, clock out system for employees or whatever it is, right? You have to learn how to connect to the database. You have to know about security of that database and the security of your program. So you're going to be able to just have that open ended and people can get into your program. There's other factors. It's not as easy as people think. Developers are still going to be needed and necessary. As the future of AI evolves, they're not going to become obsolete. The human brain and what we can compute, we might not be as fast as artificial intelligence, but we have the discernment that of life that artificial intelligence does not have the capability of doing. We have those life experiences that can help in those things, and that is still necessary. So, yeah, I
Absolutely.
don't see I don't see humans being out of the equation completely in a lot of things.
I agree. And my next question for you is if you could step into my shoes or younger self, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
I remember early on in my career thinking, um, am I ever going to overcome these like sexist attitudes towards women in technology? I used to work customer support. I used to work like a technical support type of aspect. I did, I mean, I did, programming. I did all this stuff, and I always felt that there was, like I would get a phone call from someone asking for some support from me, and I remember saying, "Let me just talk to one of the guys." Um, and they didn't mean it like, you know, because I'm from Chicago, and so I say, "Hey guys," to a group of women and men and whoever. They didn't mean it like, any human. They meant it specifically. Let me speak to a man. Um, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, am I ever going to overcome this sexist attitude? And I don't know if it was a, I noticed it less as I grew older, or if because my roles changed and my authority changed and people respected me more, or if I aged out of it. But it became less and less of an issue. But that was one thing that I was very aware of was there was always like, oh, she doesn't know because she's a woman. I remember going from AWS certification, being the only female taking the certification class test, and they have people in there kind of making sure that you're not cheating and whatnot. And the woman I submitted um, my exam to was like, "Yay, girl power!" And I was like, "Oh, why would you say that?" Like, I get it from her point of view, but it was also kind of like, don't spotlight that. Like, yes, yes, but also, it wasn't like, I don't know. It just made me feel a little uncomfortable, like pointing it out. It made me feel a little uncomfortable pointing it out. And now I don't know. Maybe I just don't notice it as much. Um, but yeah, and maybe again, like I said, maybe because of my roles, it hasn't affected me as much. Um, in the later part of my career.
I see. Yeah. And just like keeping aware of it because like it's pretty crazy because a lot of people are very stereotypical of seeing, a woman or a girl in a role that's, I don't know, predominantly male oriented, but I'm hoping that later on that attitude, like as you think so, is gonna be gone. and
Mhm.
people won't have that bias or that stereotype.
Mhm. One thing I will say is that because I have two daughters and a son, and I remember when they were in elementary school, they were taking some, they had started taking STEM classes, and in third grade, I think it was, and I remember their teacher had asked, knew, what I did for a living and whatnot. And she had asked me to speak to the class and speak to the whole grade. And I did that for several years. I spoke to third graders, speaking to them on like being a female in technology and, encouraging young women and mentoring young women. I think the more that that happens, the more that we as women take an active role in our youth of encouraging them and empowering them and cheering them on and being there and mentoring them and helping them kind of overcome some of the things that we went through. I think the more that that happens, then the less that sexist kind of attitude and role kind of will become part of their life. I think that that is something that just that just needs to happen. It just needs to be more of that.
Absolutely. And my next question for you is, what are the best resources or books that have helped you find your career path?
Um, Well, the best resource were probably my parents. I'd have to say that hands down, my parents. I mean, I do love books and I do listen to podcasts and I love some really good motivational speakers and whatnot, but definitely my parents. My dad had several businesses and he taught me you know, he taught me what multiple streams of revenue was, and the advantages of those, where you didn't have one source of income and you didn't have to rely on one source. So I learned that from my dad and his entrepreneurial spirit. I learned how to negotiate through him and watching him. Um, and and I do credit my dad for my negotiation skills. I think I'm a pretty good negotiator. My mom definitely taught me um, the power of customer service. And I remember I fought with that a little bit because I was like, customer service, that's like what you do when you're customer facing. And like, that's not something as you go into leadership. And then when I got into my leadership roles, I was like, gosh, this is way more important as a leader than, kind of in a lower entry role. Um, and that I think my parents were very much influential in my career, and just helping me um, determine how I would do things. And definitely my dad in the negotiation part, that's always been something that um, has been at the forefront of what most people want from me, is to help negotiate contracts and help negotiate agreements. I've done that and I can do that pretty well, I would say, but also the power of service and the power of friendship and the power of um, just being someone that is kind to people. That I learned that from my mom. Um, my mom would my parents had a small business, and my mom would make cookies, at at Christmas time, and pass out little treats to everyone, all of their customers. And I saw that people would come to my parents' store for the service that my mom and dad gave them. Even though there was a competitor down the street with maybe even better pricing, they came to my parents because my parents treated them well. And that really stuck with me. That resonated with me. And so one thing that I was always very conscious of, and I'm still very conscious of, and I tell my team this all the time, is that no matter what role you're playing, it doesn't matter if you're customer support, if you're a developer or whatnot, but thinking of your customer and your end user, and thinking about the experience that they have, and making sure that they are a factor in what you do. Because no matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter if you're doing billing or support or writing a program. If you put them in the equation and how this is going to impact their business, their life, their whatever it is that they're doing, then it's going to be much more successful. you're going to be much more successful in that role. Your company is going to be much more successful because your customers, your end users are a factor and they have to be factored in. And so, in my when I started in my leadership role as a director of operations, I had some young developers that I mentored, and I remember putting them on the phones, and I said, "You're going to talk to customers," and they were like, "I'm a developer. I don't talk to customers." I'm like, "Well, you do at this company," and I did that because I wanted them to know that what they do affects the people that buy the product. And when you put them in the equation, when you build up that equation, you show them that equation, you show that connection, um, then magic happens. And it's felt by your customer. It is felt by your customer and your client. It's felt by all.
Absolutely, I agree. I feel like a lot of people think that certain parts of a team is very like introverted, and other parts are very extroverted. But in reality, there are two sides to each thing. Like as you said, like developers might think that, they're only going to work on the product and not really talk to the people. But, that's kind of a myth because every single function of a team has something to do with, the end user and their experience. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, and then I've always had, um, I use the term end user occasionally, but I typically with my team, when I do orientation, I'm always like, okay, so one thing that we do not say here is end user. There is no user. They are members. We are serving them. And they come here and it's a privilege for us to serve them and it's a privilege for them to be using our software. So they are members. And I think of it more of like a country club membership. You don't say like you're a user of the country club, you are a member of the country club. And when you think of it in that respect, it elevates your thoughts of that customer, of that interaction that you have with that client and whatnot. And the dynamic changes.
Yeah, I agree. And my last question for you before we end off is what do you think is a vital factor that shaped your career? What was your life before learning it, and what was your life after learning it?
Oh gosh, one thing so many things. I wish that I wish that I had more belief in myself, and more confidence in myself early on. Um, there were times where I was set up for failure by by employers. Um, and really didn't even know if I was going to make it. But I think that there's sometimes that I was like, gosh, I just don't know. I mean, I was assigned this project and I don't know if I'm going to be successful in it. And I had a fear of that. And I think there were times that I probably should have had a little bit more confidence in myself. Because then as I ramped up my confidence, I saw that that did play a role in my career. So not arrogance, but confidence to speak up, confidence to say like, this is not right. Like, I think this is where the failure is. Or in one instance, I remember this was early on in my career, being assigned a project to. I was working technical support, and I had to travel out to another state, and they were like, well, we've sent out all of the other guys. No one can fix this issue. I know you don't know the system. I know it's Friday at 3 p.m., but Monday at 8 a.m., you're getting on a flight. You're going to go to this location. And if you don't fix it, you're fired. And I was like, oh, gosh, okay. No pressure. Okay. And I remember like wanting to just give up and I'm like, Friday night, everyone's going out and I'm like a mess because I'm like, I'm going to get fired on Monday night. Because I'm not going to be, everyone else did that went out there was way smarter than me. And they couldn't do it. Now they're going to send me and and it was a rough time. And I remember going and, well, I remember that weekend just studying this platform because I didn't know it. It was new to me, and I'm like, okay, I've got to read. I just have to I got to go start with the basics and basic troubleshooting and just read all this stuff and um, whatever. And so I remember reading a bunch of things and getting on the flight and getting to the location, and I'm like, okay, well, what's like the basic troubleshooting skills? And I just kind of went through that, and I saw there was an incompatibility issue on like software versions of things, right? Something really basic that you could send, that an intern should have been able to find, which I think they treated me kind of like an intern. And I remember like fixing that problem and calling my boss, and it was like probably, I don't know, I got this site at like 10 o'clock and it was probably like, noon. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. And he's like, you're going to throw in the towel. That's it. You're done. And I can't believe and I was like, no, I'm done. Like it's been completed, mission accomplished. Like I'm done. Like the issue's been resolved. And he's like, swearing, interjecting some swear words there. And he's like, I don't believe you. Everyone else was out there and they couldn't figure it out. And you're telling me you did it in less than 2 hours. And what I realized was what had happened, these guys that they had sent out everyone was like, oh, so-and-so is going out and these big egos. And, they couldn't fix it. There's no way in heck this young girl is going to do that. But I didn't have an ego. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to start at basics. And that really helped me. Not having a little bit of confidence and not having an ego, to say like, I'm going to start from step one and just see from there. And so what that taught me was these guys had these egos. So they were just like, it couldn't be the simplest thing, but it was.
Yeah. And that just shows that, sometimes it's really important to have confidence and not arrogance because there's a huge
Yeah.
difference in that. And I think a big factor in why they couldn't do it was because they had, ego and they were arrogant. But you didn't and you were able to solve it. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Eleni, for being here today. Before we end off, do you have any last words to the audience?
I would just encourage them, the young females out there, find a mentor, find somebody, um, you know, connect with someone that you look up to, and that, networking is a fantastic way of gaining knowledge. Definitely reading and studying and trying things is also a big thing, but also networking. You can learn a lot from others. And so if someone is offering you an opportunity to shadow them or to, kind of mentor you, take that opportunity, because that is that'll be precious in life and that will help you.
I agree. Well, thank you so much, Eleni, for being here today. I absolutely love talking to you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you inviting me on.
Thus, that concludes today's episode. If you want to know more about how I relate to these amazing topics, then stay tuned for upcoming episodes. A free way to support this show is by leaving it a 5-star rating and a review on the player you are listening to. Let me know what you enjoy about this podcast, as it's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Once again, thank you for finding me, and I hope we stay in touch with each other. Dito, you're listening to Aarna Sahu, the host of Aarna's News. Toodles!